Okay, how are you, everyone? How are you? It's good to hear. Great to know that you are here, and we will get started in a few minutes. Okay, let's see here. I have some great stuff for you today, and mm, mm, trying to get this this layout off the screen. Okay, there it goes. All right. Well, it's Saturday morning again at 9 o'clock, and we are here to talk about writing. And we're also going to be talking about my two latest books, and we're going to be doing that um, momentarily. I'll show them to you in a few minutes. But we were talking about character study and how important it is for you as a writer to know who you're writing about, why you're writing about them, and how they fit in the story. And it's very important that you get this together and know why. You must know why you're writing. Okay. So you want to decide that you're going to write, set up your own writing pattern, set up your writing environment. For me, there is no such thing as a proper place or a special place. I do like writing in my office here, my studio here, but I absolutely love writing anywhere I can. And I do it everywhere on vacations, in hospitals, you name it. I've written everywhere. I've while babysitting my grandchildren, great grandchildren. Yes, I'm that old. um, I do all of that. It doesn't matter. The most important thing you must do is to realize that as a writer, you write. And there are days you may not be a writer, and there are days you will be a writer. I don't believe in writer's block. I don't think there's such a thing. I think it's an excuse. But I think what you need to do is to focus in on yourself, what your plans are for your day or your week or whatever, and see what you can carve out of that to write. But like I said, there's no special place, no special time. It's all up to you. Your style may be different from mine. My style may be different from somebody else's. And that's perfectly okay. Don't feel bad about it. Don't make excuses about it. You may be a weekend writer. You may be a writer that can only write at night. I'm one of those people. I usually start writing about 10 o'clock and I go until like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I study work, and I'm totally involved in my characters and my storyline, blah, blah, blah. That is a personal preference, but you have to decide what's the best time of day for you to write, what is the best atmosphere for you to write in, uh, whatever. I mean, this is totally your project. You are the writer, and you have to decide that for yourself. Now, we were talking about character studies, as I said before. We talked about the storyline, we talked about the protagonist and the antagonist. And one of the things you must do in talking about these two people or these two entities, because a protagonist, as I said, can be anything or anybody. Also, your antagonist could be anything, anybody. And one of the things in the story that I was telling you about, my two latest books, Enslaved and Enslaved Part Two, Princess Gemma. The protagonist is a princess, African princess, who was captured and thrown into the enslavement in the United States. And the whole book talks about her, how she was captured, and what happened to her on the ship. And when she reached America, it just goes through her whole journey. And we travel with her as she goes through the traumas and the the hell that's in being enslaved entails. So we got that done, and there's And the antagonist, the overall, the big antagonist in this story is not in protagonist, antagonist in the story is the enslavement system that was forced upon our ancestors. So you got that, and then you have the other antagonists, who were the people who captured her, the people on the ship. You have the ship's captain. You have the plantation owners. You have it goes on and on and on. It's just like today almost. You have antagonists all around you as a black person because of the atmosphere that we live in today, especially with the political system uh, transitioning into something very different from what we've ever seen before, even worse than what's his name, George Wallace. So we have we've had a journey as a people, but that's why it's important to put our stories down on paper, put our words and our pictures and our history down for ourselves. We must be our own historians because no one can tell you who you are but yourself. Yourself, you do that. And I invite you to look into different occupations uh, that that details our history. Anthropology, historian, whatever. Do that. Look at it. And writing, of course. What would the world be without writers? We write for many different reasons. Let me take a little bit more of my morning tea. Mm. Um, Saturdays are a good time to meet and to discuss anything because it's a day you don't have to rush out of bed or anything like that. But it's a good thing for you to focus in on your job as a writer, your duties as a writer, and to think about those things. I spent a lot of times just thinking about my characters and weaving them into purposeful people that someone would love to read about. That's important because if you don't start there, there's no need in starting the book. So think about your characters in your book. Think about who's going to be the protagonist, whose life are you going to follow through this journey, through the pages of your book and your manuscript. So think about that. I think it's very, very, very important that preliminary step. And then once you decide on your characters, you want to get busy doing research, background information. You want to do a character study on that person. Who is she? Where was she born? Who did she live with? Who were her people? What part of the world does she live in? What language does she speak? How does she dress? What color is her hair? Her eyes, her skin, um, whatever. Everything about a person that you see from a normal person walking in your area, in your environment, you're going to put those same details on your characters. It may be her expressions. Maybe she has certain expressions that make her special, that stand out. Maybe they stutter. Maybe they're crippled. Just do a complete um, profile of this person. Okay. Now, you want to do that for the protagonist and the antagonist and every person in your book because you want them all to be relevant and important to go with your story. And one aspect of putting the nail, the hammer on the on the nail, is to make sure that your characters have ta-da a name. A name. Now there are many different ways to name characters in a book. I've done them all. I don't think there's any technique I have not used. But one thing, I collect names and the meaning of names. I collect them and I make them relevant in my stories because I believe that names are a destination, and the African culture is one of the people in our culture and our tradition that profess this. Your name is your destination, and your parents decide. They meditate sometimes for days and days, thinking of who they want you to be and what they're going to encourage in your lifetime, and that is your destination. So Another way of getting names is to name them after family members, name them after friends. People have cute little names. That Gemma is a name I got from a woman I met in a hospital while I was sitting with my sister. She was getting chemo in one room, and I was sitting down in the hallway with this woman, and then she asked me my name, and then I asked her hers, and she said Gemma, and I was like, what does that mean? She said it means a jewel. Okay, I like that. I said, do you mind if I use it in one of my books? She said, oh no, of course not. So I did, and I thank her for that. There are people who have odd names and that you wouldn't think belong to any human beings. And I like to collect those odd names also. And historical names that we've used in our lives, maybe during childhood. I remember names like Miss Letty Mae. Uh, uh, what I'm trying to think of some really weird ones. I wish I had my mother's uh, phone book and my aunt's phone book because I kept those just for that reason. Edna, which is my sister's name, but Edna, Leela, that's my grand aunt's names. These are Charlotte. These are old names that were used back in the day, early 50s, 40s, and 50s. That's my time. And growing up, but names change with the times. And but one of the things when you're talking about period work and work writing about a certain period of time in the life of a person or your characters, you want to think about how names are used and what names were used and what are the meanings of those words, those names. I like to look up the meaning of those names because just like the Africans do, and I do as an African descendant, is to see what those names means to help me drive my story forward. So this is something that I do. Like I've been doing it so long; it's been years, and but I like to do that because it motivates me to write about them and to understand who they are. It also, excuse me, mornings, mornings. Um, it also helps me to write about them and their family members, uh, and there are many other dynamics to naming a character. If you named a baby, you can name characters. Okay, I never named a baby, but I've named many characters. My characters are my babies. How about that? Including my nieces and nephews, and whatever. Anyway, I have something I want you to do. This is something that I use. I don't know if you can see that. The lighting here. This says African Names. This is a book I use a lot. I have several name books that I use when I'm selecting names for characters. And sometimes I invite friends over who have read the book because usually I give my books, my manuscripts out to different people and ask them to read them, give me some feedback on what you think. And a part of the process of listening to them, I may at the end I say, "Would you mind helping me choose names for these characters?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." So we have a little wine party, little wine sip, or we eat some pizza or whatever, but we get the job done. And to get that feedback, that's kind of a something. Explain to them what my process is in naming, and they work with that because I think it's really important to have the name and a destination go hand in hand. So a good name book, and you can get them from hospital name books from hospitals, and they have the meaning of the names there. And when children are born, they have these books all laying around. Most of them are free, so you're able to get that and use it properly and give it some thought. Don't just throw names out just because you need a name. Think of what that means and what that's going to mean to your story, how that's going to help you write the book. Okay, so that's something that you want to think about. Also, what I like to do is word association with the characters. Um, if you have a person like Princess Gemma in my last book, you want to think of some phrases that characterizes who she is, and write those down. along with your description of her, your outline of her profile or whatever. Sometimes I write the whole profile out in paragraph form, but my favorite way to do that is to do it in outline form. So I'll put down the different characteristics, but to think of words that characterize who she is, what she looks like, how she talks, how she interacts with people, things of that sort. I like to just collect words that I can associate with her personality, and that helps me to pull that through. Another thing I like to do is to find phrases that this person may express in expressing who she is to the characters in the book that she's going to be surrounded by. And a lot of times you can do that easily. But this is a book that I bought in a thrift store. I don't know if you probably can't see that. I'll take pictures of this later where you can see how shabby it is. And it doesn't even have a back on it, but it's a book. It's called The Writer's Sidekick, and it's all about phrases. And you get a category. Say, let's see if I can pull out something here. Uh, let's see here. Let me see if I can find a good topic. And it's all under. They have the words that they're talking about at the top, and then the phrases at the bottom. Okay. Suspect, an alibi or alibying, uh, a chair with handcuffs, clammed mouth, locked up. These are just expressions that may go along with whatever the suspect may have. Red hot, rubber hose. Somebody be somebody with a rubber hose, right? That happens. The third degree. These are the words associated with that. And here's some other things down here. Third degree session, truth serum test, lie detector test, the torture, puncture, proving the alibi, mistaken identity arrest, look-alike, or somebody resembles a criminal and is not. Uh, a couple of other things. Just give you an idea of what a phrase book does. I've written one of my own that I used most often, and it helps me to get through that. And I associate these phrases with the characters. And as I'm going down the line and going from character to their process, and then I put the phrases that I think would be best for that person. Another book that I like to use, and these are writing resources. I use a book of trivia. This is, I don't know, I'm sure you can't see it, but I'll make sure I take pictures of these so I can display them for you later. A book of trivia, and you find out what the person does or what area of concern you have or you're covering in the book, and then pull out some trivia that associates with their lifestyle or their occupation or whatever. Great book to have. Okay, so you want to think about that. And sometimes, I think I was trying to show you a book that I like to do. This is called Your Mama. I love this book. It tells hundreds and hundreds of Your Mama jokes. And it also has some poetry in it and some stories that were told word of mouth for many, many years in the Black community. It's a wonderful book. And I think it's just great. And children love it. And some of the stuff you have to be very particular about, because some of the stories in this particular book is not appropriate for children. So you have to watch out for that. But they have many books like this: Anthology of Black History, The Written Word. So you can take a look at that. I'm trying to see what I can see here that, yeah, that is not appropriate. So, Oh, this one is funny. It's because your mama don't wear no drawers. That's a poem. All right. Let me see if I can find one that may be a little bit more suitable for the air. Uh, oh boy, let's see. It'll take a little work. I'll prepare for that next time. But the ones that I'm reading now are not quite kosher. So let's. But be sure to pick one up. These are really useful in doing your stories. I used this a lot when I was writing the book or books like this. When I was writing Buttermilk Bottom, because a lot of the stuff that we did as kids and things that we said as children are in this book. And I remember that, like poetry, when we jump and rope, things of that sort. It's amazing. And one of the poems that come to mind is, what is it? I ca- Yo mom, oh no, I don't want that. That's the one I was going to read and did not read. But oh Mary Mac, all dressed in black, with silver buttons all down her back. That's something you can put in a book. Oh, I think I used that. I don't know if I used that particular one about her, but poems like that are said in rhythm and rhyme, and it was a big part of our growing up years in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, but that's something you want to take a look at. Another book that I use is a travel. I use a lot of travel guides. This one is about the West and the Wild West, and it talks about many characters in there. And I found that very good. And in the book that I'm going to publish next, it's about a writer who has moves out west or moved. No, she doesn't move out west. She travels out west, and she is taken by the stories and the Black history, because Black people don't realize that the first cowboys in this country were Black men and Mexicans. And they used to run cattle all over the West and up into Canada for many years before the white man came along and took that culture over that title of cowboy. But the reason they call it cowboy because they were always calling the Black man a boy. But Black people and Mexicans ran those cattle from Mexico all the way up into to different areas of the West and the Northwest and up into Canada. And that's a tradition we need to do a lot of research on, because we own that. We own that. You hear me? A lot of the words in that are taken from a lot of words and phrases are taken from Mexican words, which is like lasso and many others. So we need to take a look at that more closely and see where our history leads us. And also, we have to think about after the Civil War, which ended slavery in this country, we had many Blacks moving out west to get that free land. Very few of us got it, but we were on the hunt. And there's a lot of stories about the people who travel out west, excuse me, after the Civil War. Hmm. So take a look. Those people were called exodusters. Exodusters. So take a look at that. And just remember, there are a lot of resources for you. But the main thing I want you to think about is, like, when I was writing this book, writing about the next book I'm going to be out, it's called Writing Through My Life, which I wrote as a gift to my sister, Odessa. She made a lot of comments, but I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, but a lot of the names, I got some names, Western type names out of this book. And it was very interesting. And like the food that they ate, how what the wagon trains were consisting of, what the land looked like, what were some of the hobbies and the work habits of the Westerners, and the history of our people, which I'm always interested in and always looking for. Okay, so use the information that I've just given you, and apply it to your writing if that's appropriate. But names are always a part of our writing skills and our techniques. It's a very important that you name your characters and name them with something in mind to help motivate you to write more about them and to discover who they are internally. There's an internal person, there's an external person, and sometimes they don't meet. And sometimes your protagonist, like who we were talking about the other last couple of weeks ago, um, Norman Bates, that crazy man, his struggle was in himself. And he was his own antagonist because he was mentally ill. And that was after his Hitchcock movie. Okay. So take a look at some of these things and uh, make use of it. Give me questions if you like. You can contact me directly by emailing me at fourthwordpublications@gmail.com. And if you have any questions about whether you want to uh, purchase one of my books, which we did review a few weeks ago, um, last week, I think. Yeah, last week we went over that. So make sure ask questions. I'm here if you need me. Drop me a line on Facebook or whatever. If you need a cheerleader, I'm here. Okay. So just take your time about what you want to do, how you're going to read your writing. And remember, this is your book. This is your manuscript. This is your story. These are your characters. And you are to use them and write them the way you want to, according to your standards and your likes and dislikes. Don't let anybody take those rights from you. And when people critique your writing, listen to them. That for you. Remember that. Okay. So take care. God in. Ciao. And I will see you next week at 9 o'clock. Same place, same station. Have a great week. Enjoy yourself and take any with you. Okay. God bless.